In a previous video, we created a sample question that I have shown here, which just asks, what is 17 plus 22? Then we've got this math typesetting, and then we put the answer box right after this equal sign. So we talked about how to do that. However, in a lot of questions, you'll want to randomize the values within the question so that different students get different versions of the questions. So we need a way to randomize these values. So maybe we want A and B to have various values for different students. So what we want are some randomizer functions. So if we pulled open the writing questions help, we start to look at this table of contents, we see that we have a randomizers link. So if I click on that, we've got a little note here, and then we've got a long list of functions that randomize values for us. So I'm not going to cover all of these, but you can go in and you can look at all of those within the writing questions help. I'll just look at a couple useful ones that I use pretty regularly. So the first one, rand min max, returns an integer between min and max. Cool, let's go ahead and try that one out. So I'll hide that, and then in my common control, we'll say A. Let's let A have a random value, so rand, and then we want this random value to be anything between, I don't know, let's say 8 and 19. And then maybe we want B to have a random value between 30 and 52. I'm just making up numbers here. So we'll quick save and preview. Now, over on the student preview, now we have what is 14 plus 49. And we can type in 14 plus 49, and we get correct feedback on that. And down here we have a button that says submit and regen. That basically just means let's submit the work and then regenerate the question and like re-randomize all of the random values. So if we do that, now we get what is 13 plus 44. If we regenerate again, we get 11 plus 34, 14 plus 37. So now A and B are being randomized, and the answer is still always going to be A plus B. So not too hard to get running with some random values. Another useful randomizer function is the rrand. So you just add another R to the front. And the rrand function takes 3 inputs, a minimum value, a maximum value, and then like a step value. So I'm going to do 0.1. What this says is, give me a random value between 30 and 52 and steps of 0.1. So if I save this, now we get what is 14 plus 46.2. And this B, this random value B, it can be like any value between 30 and 52, but we're going to go in steps of 0.1. So in this case, we're going to have like 1 decimal value numbers, potentially. Of course, we could still have integer values, but most of them will be decimal values with 1 decimal place. Another useful randomizer function is rand from. So the rand from function, you can give it either a list written as a string or an array. So if you give it an array of values, so maybe we'll do 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, rand from is going to pick one of these random values. So it's just going to look into this array, it's going to pick a random one from that array and give it back. So now if we save, we're going to get what is 9 plus 44.2. If we regen, we get 5 plus 46.1. And that value of A is always going to be either 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. So the rand from function is pretty nice if you want to have a lot of control over what specific values you want. Now there are some nice control statements we can add after our randomization declarations. So by that I mean, if we have the statement here, B equals a random number between 30 and 52 in steps of 0.1, we can add a where clause at the end. So if we do where, and then in parentheses, put some kind of statement, then it's basically going to keep randomizing until whatever statement we provide is true. So as an example of this, if you wanted a number that has to have 1 decimal place, so we don't want integer values, then what we would do is we want a random number between 30 and 52 in steps of 0.1, and then we would do where round, we have a function round of B is not equal to B. What this is saying is if we round the number B, we don't want that to be equal to B, because if that was true, then we would have an integer value. So if we quick save and preview, now this b value is always going to have one decimal place. We don't ever have to worry about getting an integer value out of this because we added this where clause, which adds some more restrictions on our randomization. Okay, one more example that can sometimes be useful is there's a function called rand male name and rand female name. So we could do something like $John. We'll create a variable named John, and we want it to be a random male name. So we do rand male name like this. This is going to return a random male name, which can be useful if you're writing questions that have names in it and you don't want to come up with a name each time. So maybe we change our question text to something like $John asked, and then we'll just put some quotes, what is A plus B? So now when we quick save and preview, we get Caesar asked, what is 7 plus 46.4? We regenerate, we should get a new male name, generate again, new male name. So we've got some options for generating random names. We have a male one and a female version, which can be useful for questions that have names in them.